The chase tightened. There was no escape. The predator was spectacularly thrown back. Lion versus solitary buffalo. The charge that changed the hunt. The sunlight that flooded the savanna brought no gentleness, but the heat of impending war. The dry grass glistened with morning dew. The ground still retained the chill of the night, but the air was already beginning to thicken, foreshadowing a harsh day. In this land, daytime hunting was the choice of the confident. In the open field, a pride of lionesses moved in the soft light. The adult figures moved low, shoulders close to the grass, footsteps perfectly timed. Among them were the clumsy cubs, their eyes wide, trying to remember their mother's every movement. This was not just a hunt, a first survival lesson under the sun. The lionesses deliberately moved slowly. They teach by letting their cubs witness the right target and the wrong mistake. In the distance, under the rising sun, a male buffalo appeared. Its body, over half a ton, stood still like a living stone under the rising sun. Its thick, dark skin and curved horns reflected the morning light in sharp, cold streaks. Buffaloes are not ideal prey for a first lesson. But when it lagged behind the herd by half a beat, that lesson suddenly seemed too close. The lions stopped. An adult female glanced quickly at her cubs. She urged them to look carefully. In the daylight, everything was more clearly revealed. And it was under that rising sun, the sunlight had already crossed the horizon. The lions spread out. The adults crawled low, keeping their distance, deliberately letting the cubs move slowly behind. This was the most important part of the lesson, waiting. The buffalo noticed their presence. It turned its head, snorted loudly, and stomped its hooves on the ground. Dry dust rose around its hooves. The distance narrowed. A lioness increased her pace, circling around its side. Another pressed from behind. The cub paused, observing. The lesson was coming. In the buffalo's eyes, there was only cold anticipation. Without hesitation, the lioness lunged. A short burst of speed, its entire body thrust forward. The familiar bite had finished off countless prey on the savanna. But the buffalo did not fall. In an instant, the half-ton mass of its body reversed. Its supporting leg plunged deep into the ground. Its head lowered. The butt exploded. It was a full-force impact. The lioness was lifted off the ground, its body spinning sideways in the air before crashing heavily onto the dry earth. Red dust flew. A dry, heavy sound of impact echoed. so loud that the cubs behind recoiled in shock. The savanna fell silent. The lion lay motionless for a long moment. The buffalo stood tall before it, its eyes locked on the one who had just tried to kill it. The lesson of survival had been broken. In that moment, the lion cubs understood something they didn't need anyone to teach them. Not every hunt ends the way the hunter wants. And under the rising sun, a mistake was etched into the savanna by dust and an irreversible charge. The lion cub stood still behind. It had seen its mother charge hundreds of times, had seen prey fall with a single bite. But this time, what it saw was not victory. The sound of the impact echoed in its chest before the dust had even settled. In that brief moment, its immature instincts touched upon a strange concept for the first time. The hunter could be struck down. The night dragged on heavily. There was no sound of tearing apart a carcass or a feast. The next morning, the savanna woke up earlier than usual. The harsh sunlight streamed down onto the ground, having lost its last thin layer of dew. Heat radiated back up from the dry grass. Hunger gnawed at her stomach. But the memory of yesterday's butt was even more deeply etched in their minds. This time, no one wanted to be the first to charge. The lion cubs huddled close to their mothers. Their bellies were empty, their breathing heavy. They had to eat. The pride of lions rose simultaneously. This time, they didn't split up to try their luck. They moved together. In the distance, a herd of wildebeest was moving slowly across the open ground. Their large bodies and large numbers caused the ground to tremble slightly with each step. This was the kind of prey that only a large pride of lions would dare target. The pride of lions stood still for a long time in the bright sunlight. Hunger didn't make them rush. It made them calculate more carefully. The cubs pressed against their mothers' bellies, their breathing soft and rapid. The pressure didn't come from the prey, but from behind the formation. They began to walk parallel to the wildebeest herd. Not pressing too close, not cornering. Maintain just enough distance to avoid detection, but also to avoid losing sight of them. The herd of antelopes moved steadily, their footsteps heavy, seemingly safe in their large numbers. But that very density created small gaps, individuals out of sync, individuals obscured from view, individuals unable to react in time when direction changed. The lions don't choose the weakest. They choose the one in the wrong position. When the antelope herd subtly turned along an old trail, an adult was cornered. No one panicked, no warning roar. Just a gap formed too slowly to be noticed. At that moment, the lions accelerated simultaneously. Not a solitary breakaway. But the entire group pressed together, cutting off the direction, blocking the turning point. The chase had no escape. The wildebeest accelerated. But the lions didn't need to surge forward immediately. They just needed to maintain pressure. Hunger spurred each step. And this time, the prey was firmly in their claws. The meal began without a roar. The cubs charged first, tearing clumsily. The adults stood on the periphery, breathing heavily, their eyes still scanning. The hunger was satisfied. But there was no sense of victory. In the air still lingered the warm scent of blood, the memory of yesterday's butt still present. The lions had survived a mistake, but the savanna hadn't forgotten. Today, the savanna no longer carried the rhythm of the past. The herd of buffalo from yesterday emerged from the thin mist, but the formation was different. No more loose gaps. The massive bodies pressed closer together, horns intertwined, shoulders touching, forming a slow but solid, steel-like mass. The buffalo that had delivered the butt yesterday was no longer at the back of the herd. It was held in the center, where all eyes and horns were directed outwards. Each step was now not just for movement, but to set the rhythm for the entire herd. The buffalo left the dry pasture, slowly advancing toward the shallow water, where the hard ground began to disappear beneath their hooves. Dark mud appeared, cold and sinking. Here, the horns no longer had enough space to deliver a powerful headbutt. Each step cost them their balance. The familiar sounds of the step vanished, replaced by a thick, oppressive silence. Only small ripples spread out and then vanished too quickly to be named. The buffaloes instinctively pressed together, not to attack, but to avoid being separated in an environment that was not their own. The space was tense. The water suddenly burst open. A violent pull from below. Water shot high. Dark mud surged up, obscuring all vision. The cries were cut short in their throats. The buffaloes reacted in chaos. They huddled together in a single mass. On the savanna, the survivors had learned to stand closer together. Crocodiles hunt with precision. But now, precision became a gamble. The buffaloes were not safe, but they had not yet fallen. In this swamp, who would collapse first? The one waiting beneath the cold water, or the bodies clinging closer together with each breath? The savanna had taught them how to fight. The swamp would teach them how to survive. That confrontation didn't produce an absolute winner. It only left indelible marks. The lion understood that not all solitary prey is weak. And the buffalo herd learned a harsher lesson. A single misstep in formation, and death might not come from the predator on land, but from the darkness lurking beneath the still water. On the savanna, no one is immortal. If you felt this reversal of fortune, when the prey not only fled, but dared to fight back, please like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Because in the wild, Each survival is just the beginning of another confrontation, more intense and more merciless. Dawn has just touched the Serengeti, but that piece is only a fragile shell. The ground is gradually shaking from the giant footsteps, and the cold eyes are also watching every move. Today, the steppe will witness an unexpected confrontation. Wild dogs surrounding wild buffalo. The unexpected chase. Dawn has not yet fully opened its eyes when the Serengeti ground is already shaking with a steady, deep beat. A thin layer of mist covers the grass, sparkling in the early morning light like heavy glass beads. The wind blows, carrying the hot, dry soil smell of the dry season, mixed with the remaining moisture from the cold night. From the west of the steppe, giant black shadows begin to appear, blurred in the yellow mist. Then a black curved horn tears through the mist. Then a second. Then a row of horns rose like a black rock rising from the ground. Then a second. The Cape buffalo herd appeared. Then a second. The herd advanced in a solid mass, moving slowly but threateningly like a dense black storm. Their backs were as big as living rocks, their dark fur shining in the sun as if covered with a thin layer of oil. Each step they took on the dry ground created small columns of dust that shot up, each beat resounding like the beat of an ancient war drum. The adult males were at the forefront, broad-shouldered, thick-necked, their helmets made of steel-hard bones that formed a natural shield that no predator wanted to confront head-on. Behind them were the females, following each other, always keeping the young in the middle of the formation, the safest point of the herd. An old female buffalo stopped, dipping her muzzle into the dry, broken grass, her breath exhaling white mists. Her deep black eyes scanned the steppe, slowly but warily. The peace only lasted a few seconds because wherever a herd of buffalo appeared, there was always a sign that a battle for survival was about to break out. Her deep black eyes scanned in a few seconds. The leader's deep roar rang out, pulling the giant creatures to change direction. They all headed towards the low area where only a little young grass remained at the end of the dry season. And somewhere in the distance, in the pale yellow grass, other eyes were also watching those heavy footsteps. The morning sun was still low, the soft light like a golden silk covering the low bush where the wild dogs had chosen to shelter during the dry season. Here, the ground was a little softer thanks to the shade. The grass was sparse and full of small footprints overlapping each other, like a chaotic picture that only wild dogs could read. The pack was scattered around a low area where the whole family gathered after long nights of hunting. The female alpha lay at the edge, alert even though her eyes were only half open. The long ears constantly rotated to the small sounds of birds flapping their wings in the wind, the chirping of insects in the dust, or the wind blowing through dry, thorny branches. Right next to its belly, the puppies, a few weeks old, were curled up in a ball, sleeping so soundly that they occasionally jerked slightly as they dreamed of running in the vast grasslands. The remaining adults lay a few meters away, breathing evenly, but their bodies were always ready to spring up. Their backs heaved with the tired breaths after the night hunt, their mottled black and white fur shining in the sunlight like unfinished paint. The air still smelled of earth, dust, and the bodies of the whole pack mixed together, creating a characteristic scent of wild dogs that was both wild and warm, like the smell of a real family. The wind blew gently, carrying a bit of the early morning heat. Some of them struggled to stand up, stretched, yawned, and shook their heads vigorously, causing the dust to fly away like small jets. Then they lay down again, knowing that the sun was not yet strong enough to force them to leave the area. Under the low shade of the trees, in the arid land of the Serengeti, this rare moment of rest was all the wild dogs had in their relentlessly challenging lives. The noon sun cast a scorching light over the Serengeti grasslands. The streaks of heat rising from the ground blurred the sky before their eyes like frosted glass. In that space, a herd of more than 30 Cape buffaloes moved slowly, dragging thick dust with each step. They did not know that they had entered the center of the wild dogs' activity and hunting. Slowly, dragging. They did not know. At the edge of the area, in the low gray grass, small, sharp eyes like blades silently watched. The wild dogs were scattered in the shade. Many still bore traces of fatigue from last night's hunt, but when the wind changed direction and brought the strong, thick, and heavy smell of buffalo sweat, they all jumped up as if awakened by their primal instincts. As the buffalo herd advanced deeper into the land, the scene became as tense as a bowstring. The curved horns swept through the grass. The muscles under the thick skin rippled in the sunlight. But despite their strength, wild buffaloes are not built to withstand the tactics of wild dogs, especially when they are scattered. A young buffalo accidentally broke away from the herd for a few steps, and that was the moment when the wild dogs exploded. In a few chaotic seconds, the attack took place like a storm dance. The separated buffalo breathed heavily, its eyes red with pain and fear. Just a few more steps, and it would have completely fallen into the small circle of the pack. The mother buffalo startled and turned back. But it was too late. The wild dogs, with their cruel but effective tactics, had achieved what they wanted. In the red wind of the late afternoon, the mother buffalo's painful roar echoed, heavy, deep, as if the entire steppe was shaking. On the edge of the thorn bush, the wild dogs began to advance again, because for them, this was the meal the whole herd needed to continue living. The dust settled. The mother buffalo looked at the dead calf, but the herd behind her began to move. Each each individual turned their backs, walking slowly and heavily as if dragging the grief on the ground. The black horns quietly sank into the dark red sunset, leaving behind a cold void and the sound of the wind howling through the broken grass. No one looked back a second time, because on this step, Pain also knew how to continue walking. The sun had just touched the horizon when the pack of wild dogs began to return to their dens. The bloody muzzles of the buffalo calves, small pieces of flesh tightly held in their teeth, were all they could save after the fast and chaotic attack. The female alpha took the lead, running and making low calls to signal safety. In the hollow covered with thorn trees, the puppies heard their mother's voice and jumped up, rushing out on their still clumsy legs. As the adult pack entered, the chirping of the cubs increased, their round eyes shining brightly when they smelled the food. The female alpha gently placed the piece of meat down, letting the puppies fight to pull them to the corner of the den. A few adult dogs lay down right next to them, panting but their eyes full of softness. This was a rare moment when the bloodthirsty predators turned into devoted parents. Under the red sunset, the wild dogs surrounded their cubs, sharing every small piece of food, even though it was a painful spoil from the buffalo calf. But it was life, hope, and the only way for the next generation to continue to survive on this harsh steppe. In the Serengeti steppe, the wild dogs left their cubs in the darkness of the den. The whole pack was forced to rush into dangerous hunts to bring back every small piece of food to feed the next generation. Their love for their cubs was measured by the exchange of sweat, blood, and the fragile boundary between life and death. But just around the corner, there is a species that raises its young in a completely different way. They never leave their young for even a step. Every movement, every breath creates a strong, protective circle. That is the African elephant, the gentle giants carrying the power of an ancient era. Their steps are slow and sure, as if they are walking through the layers of time of the savanna. Even though they weigh tons, every time they move, the ground only shakes gently, as if nature is too familiar with that steady rhythm. Leading the herd is the mother elephant, her large ears open to dissipate heat, her deep, gentle eyes containing the memories of many generations. Next to her is the small, clumsy but eager baby elephant with the New World. Its small trunk constantly wraps around its mother's leg whenever it hears a strange sound. The herd moves in rows, the large individuals shielding the young in the center, forming a living fortress that few predators dare to challenge. The red dust rising under the sunset clings to their gray skin, making them look like living sandstone statues in the middle of a sea of grass. No roars, no panic, only deep, warm sounds echo through the air, the silent dialogue of the extended family that only elephants can understand. If wild dogs raise their children with adventure, then elephants raise their children with unwavering protection, with a gentle but steadfast maternal love like the ground they are walking on. The baby elephant frolics beside its mother, its small legs running through the golden grass. Its clumsy trunk constantly swings, touching its mother's feet as if to make sure she is always there. The mother elephant walks slowly, her large ears flapping in the wind, occasionally bending down to gently touch her baby with her warm trunk. Every time the baby elephant stumbles, she stops, gently touches its back as a gentle encouragement. In the vast savanna, the mother and child were like a rare piece of peace moving in the sea of sunlight. But Serengeti was never all peace. Even in the moment when the baby elephant frolicked in the sun, other eyes were also watching from afar. In the shade of a low acacia bush, a group of lionesses lay pressed close to the ground. Their sharp golden eyes did not leave the elephant herd moving ahead, especially the cub playing next to its mother. Lions are the master hunters of the savanna, but before these gray giants, they were just cautious shadows. A lioness tried to take a few steps forward, but the mother elephant immediately stopped. Her ears were spread wide, her trunk curled up, a strong breath hit the ground as a warning. And then a deep roar rang out from deep within the mother elephant's chest. The sound was not loud, but enough to make the ground tremble slightly, and startled the entire pride of lions. Lions know this very well. A single charge from a mature elephant is enough to end an individual in an instant. The lioness roared softly, but the sound was lost in the wind before the majesty of the elephant herd. Eventually, they retreated into the grass, tails tucked, steps slowed, because even though they were hungry, they knew what was beyond the limit of the price to pay. On the savanna, there are those who stand at the top of the predatory chain, but there are also creatures that make those predators falter. And for lions, elephants are the nightmare they never want to face. On the great savanna of the Serengeti, the strong are not always the ones who jump into battle, but the ones who choose to survive through each dawn and dusk. Between the deadly battles and the rare moments of calm, the Serengeti continues to operate as it always has, cruel, majestic, and breathtakingly beautiful. Here, every living being must fight not only to survive, but to continue writing their own story. Don't forget to ring the bell and subscribe so you don't miss the next wildlife survival series. A lightning-fast hunt, a seemingly certain victory. Hyenas have surrounded them. A single mistake by either side could cost lives. On the steppe, a moment's delay means becoming someone else's dinner. The Steppe War. Hyenas versus wild dogs. A tactical battle. This is the Serengeti. The fiercely beating heart of Africa. Under a sky that never changes color, a vast carpet of grassland stretches to the horizon, where life exists under a single, harsh rule: survival of the fittest. This great steppe is not paradise. It is a battlefield governed by two non-negotiable elements: water and meat. Every year, a massive migration arrives, bringing with it a huge amount of protein, a rare feast. But this feast is also the spark for a covert war between the continent's most successful predators. In this ecosystem, there's a class known as the predators. They aren't giants like lions, nor are they solitary figures like leopards. They are strategists, living by coordination, speed, and the power of numbers. Conflict doesn't just stem from competition for prey. It comes from the perfect overlap in the survival strategies of the two species. Both hunt in groups, both need large amounts of food to feed their pack, and most importantly, both are most effective at dusk and dawn. The golden hours of hunting, where territorial boundaries blur. The spotted hyena and the African wild dog, two of the most complex social forces, have shaped the Cold War on the savanna. Each encounter is a lesson in tactics, courage, and the necessary ruthlessness. They share resources, they share space. But they cannot share power. And that is the cause of conflict. The first force to emerge into the spotlight was the spotted hyena. They were labeled as scavengers. That was a fatal mistake. Spotted hyenas are warriors. A matriarchal society where females are not only larger, but also more aggressive than males. Their family structure can reach up to 80 individuals. The power of the clan is undeniable. Biologically, hyenas are a masterpiece of evolution. Their jaw strength, measured at up to 1,100 pounds per square inches, allows them to crush the thigh bones of giraffes, something even lions would hesitate to do. This is key to their efficient use of food, leaving no waste. Their hunting tactics are endurance and crushing. They can run long distances at a steady, relentless pace, cornering their prey until it is exhausted and surrenders. The sun sets. Several hyenas from a small clan were lurking in the shadows of the bushes, watching a lone female zebra, slightly injured in the leg. The target had been chosen. This wasn't a high-speed chase, but a psychological war. The pace quickened. After more than 15 minutes of pursuit, the zebra began to show signs of fatigue. Its courage had run out. The zebra collapsed. Immediately, 5 more swooped down. The process ended extremely quickly. Hyenas, efficient predators. But this success is sometimes a burden. The smell of blood attracts other ambitious predators. As the hyena pack was feeding, a smaller dark shadow darted across the edge of the light. These were the scout wild dogs. The feeding stopped. The hyena's cold eyes turned toward the shadows. They had spotted their rivals. The hyenas guarded their food with absolute ferocity. But the pack of wild dogs was moving cautiously, waiting for the right moment. In the distance, nomads appeared. These were African wild dogs. Their unique mottled coats, they were lean and slender, yet possessed incredible kinetic power. Unlike the heavy hyenas, wild dogs are marathon runners capable of bursting with speed. They have the highest hunting success rate among large African predators, reaching up to 80% in a chase. Their secret lies not in jaw strength, but in tactical synchronization. They live in smaller packs than hyenas, usually under 20 individuals, but each individual is a perfect cog in the hunting machine. They communicate constantly with chirps and soft howls, signaling location and tactics in real time. The relationship between wild dogs and hyenas is that of thief and robber. Wild dogs hunt and kill quickly, leaving very few wounds on their prey. Their slower hunting speed compared to hyenas is a fatal weakness, making them vulnerable to having their prey stolen. Amidst the chaotic scene of the savanna, ablaze with the schemes of hyenas and wild dogs, the herd of wildebeest stands out like an endless sea of life. Under the scorching midday sun, thousands of individuals move in a surging current, red dust rising like dry mist, covering the sky in a hazy yellow hue. Each of their footsteps echoes with a deep, resonant sound, like the pounding heartbeat of the savanna during its harsh migration season. Wildebeest are not the instigators of war, yet they are the center of every conflict. They don't hunt, steal prey, or compete for territory, but their sheer numbers and abundant energy become an irresistible attraction for all predators. As the herd of wildebeest reached the shallow waterhole, the sky trembled slightly with the thunderous sound of their hooves. A gazelle lagging behind the herd became the perfect target for the waiting pack of wild dogs. With a single movement, the alpha dog gave the signal. The entire pack instantly shifted from stalking to attack. The spotted bodies darted through the dry grass, cutting at perfect angles, cornering the young gazelle into a low-lying area with no escape route. Just a few dozen seconds later, the gazelle collapsed, and the pack of wild dogs began to reward their chillingly precise pursuit. On the distant hilltop, the gray, spotted shadows began to move. The hyenas had heard the struggle earlier, and now they had pinpointed the location. The alpha female's eyes were cold, as if every outcome had been predetermined. They didn't charge immediately. They circled, gradually closing the radius, emitting dry, intermittent laughs like daggers piercing the spirits of the wild dogs preoccupied with their meal. The wild dogs immediately sensed danger. A few of the hyenas separated, rearing up and growling menacingly. But the hyenas didn't care. They hadn't come to intimidate. They had come to reclaim their feast. They understood that the wild dogs couldn't protect both the carcass and the cubs waiting in the distance. They knew the weakness. They attacked psychologically. The battle officially began. The wild dogs reacted fiercely. But the hyenas weren't fighting for instant victory. They were fighting to wear them down. They didn't need to eat the carcass whole. They just needed to exhaust the pack both physically and mentally. A young hyena foolishly chased too far from a decoy wild dog. Immediately, 3 other adult wild dogs separated, isolated it, and turned to attack it. The prairie war wouldn't end with a small skirmish. Tomorrow, the roles of hunter and robber, enemy and foe, could be reversed at any moment. The young hyena received many painful bites. A cry of pain rang out. It was forced to flee for its life. The tactic had worked. The pack of wild dogs had sent a clear message. Organized numbers would triumph over individual strength. The remaining hyenas understood that the price for this piece of meat was too high. They retreated, watching the pack of wild dogs withdraw toward the bushes with the meat they had just reclaimed. This was a rare victory for the wild dogs over the hyenas. Usually, the hyenas were the predators, but today they were the ones being chased. The hyenas snarled in frustration, but they didn't pursue them into the dense forest where the wild dogs' speed and agility were an absolute advantage. The scene had calmed down, the tension dissipated, leaving behind the smell of blood and the gasps of the survivors. Both sides withdrew. They weren't seeking each other's destruction, but rather temporary dominance over resources. The sun was high in the sky. The confrontation was over, at least for today. In this savanna war, there are no heroes or villains, only opposing and complementary survival strategies. Hyenas represent strength and perseverance, a force that all other predators must be wary of. They are tireless scavengers, keeping the savanna's material cycle running. Wild dogs represent intelligence and efficiency, a lesson in the value of unity and overwhelming tactics. Both survive through community, spirit, and specialization in hunting. But the success of one always comes at the cost of the other. The line between predator and prey is always blurred. A hyena might steal prey from a wild dog today, but it could be robbed by a lion tomorrow night. The cycle of survival never ends. The war is endless. Only new chapters are written each day. The herd of antelopes is like the eye of a storm, and the wild dogs and hyenas are the two swirling vortexes tightening around it. Their war, whether direct or indirect, revolves around the antelopes because wherever they are, there is food, life, and power. But precisely because of this, the wildebeest becomes the most disadvantaged species, not the instigator, but always the first and most vulnerable victims between the two most intelligent predators of the savanna. And as the evening falls, the shadows of the antelope stretch across the ground like trembling streaks of color. They continue to move forward, not for victory or defeat, but simply driven by the instinct for survival. They continue walking, unaware that their very quiet existence is determining the tactics, movements, and bloody battles about to erupt between the wild dogs and hyenas. In the savanna war, the wildebeest is not a warrior, but it is the center of every storm. On the savanna, a stolen meal is not just the loss of prey, but the beginning of a chain of retaliation. The savanna war won't stop because of a small skirmish. Tomorrow, the roles of hunter, robber, and enemy could be reversed at any moment. There are no heroes here, no villains. Only creatures fighting for survival. And tomorrow, when the first rays of sunlight fall upon the sea of grass, the cycle will begin again. A new hunt, a new theft of prey, a new confrontation between the two most formidable forces on the savanna. Stay tuned for the next installment to witness the escalating conflict as the roles of hunter and robber switch in the blink of an eye. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to avoid missing the next wildlife survival series.